Sometimes I wonder if you guys believe me about these jungle storms and all the crap that I shoot in. Probably a lot of you don't. But yeah, it's basically a thunderstorm rolling through here. The wind just stopped, but the rains are pouring through, so I'm going to get soaking wet, so I have to pack up all my gear, run out, wait 20 minutes, come back so all my crap isn't all soaking wet and destroyed. Pretty fun. Out here on the range. So today I've come to the conclusion that all of my problems I'm just chasing bad parts. What I mean by that is I got this regulator in this gun is, I'm gonna say it's garbage. I don't know, it's just because I've played around with it so much that it just isn't working like it was when I got it, but it's really, really creepy. And an ant bite me or I bit my lip or something. So I think I'm chasing bad parts. I tethered today for the very first time ever to just take the bottle pressure out of the equation for my shooting. I tested from my standard 140 bar tune all the way up to, I believe a fire ant bit my lip, all the way up to 155. I just couldn't get it to shoot super smooth. So what I did is I went all the way back down to 130 bar. Couldn't get the gun to feel harmonic. When I got it up to the speed, it just kind of boing, boing. The hammer spring is just, it has this weird boinging feeling. Not harmonic. This fly is really starting to piss me off. It wasn't real harmonic. I was getting that boing. So I started creeping the reg up and I crept it up to 135 and that like weird boing feel started to go away. And what it is it's like you're kind of maxed out on the hammer spring and then you're tuning the reg up to bring the speed up to where you want, right? Anyway, I'm pretty pissed off right now because while I'm having fun shooting and it's fun to tinker and you'll learn a lot because you're just chasing ghosts all the time, that you really learn a lot. You really learn how to like feel what it's doing. And I can feel what it's doing right now is not being consistent. And I'm pretty sure it's the stem regulator. But I ended up just below 140 bar before it started to feel like real consistent where I wanted it again, where it had like that nice little snap and it wasn't getting any like boing. So I just went right back to where I've been at 140 bar and to get that consistent snap, and it snap, snap, snap. But then when I'm sitting there, my standard deviation is jumping all over the place from 1,010 to 1,045. And I mean, I'm tinkering, so that's not exactly, it's not like on one setting that it's doing that, but it's jumping around like 15 back and forth on my standard deviation. So that's when I start screwing this valve in to tighten the SD up. And then once I get the SD kind of tight, everything's going well, and then the gun sits for a minute and the reg creeps and it shoots low and slow. And it takes like 3 shots to get it back to shooting good again. And then it starts jumping all over the place again. Just when I think I found a sweet spot. There's been like 5 times where I thought I was done tuning because it would shoot like 5 shots in a row with no standard deviation. 0. It was like the same thing. It'd be like a 1,016, 1,016, 1,016, 1,016, 1,018, 1,014, 1,016. And it's like, all right, we did it. We got it. And then it just goes away. I don't think that this regulator recovers fast enough. It's creepy. And the bottle pressure, when I'm at the higher end of the bottle pressure, it makes it creep even more. Anyway, I have a Huma regulator on the way. Or I actually already have the regulator. They sent me a bad one. It didn't have a hole drilled in it. And I'm not pissed about it other than I want it. They did make it right and sent me out the new parts and stuff. Just waiting for it to get delivered next week. So it was another at least a week and a half of waiting if it doesn't get stuck on some stupid boat for a month. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I'm just chasing bad parts. Here's what I'm doing for the tune. So if I want to shoot these faster speeds and I'm shooting them at lower regulator pressures, what's happening is you're getting that breath from the lower regulator pressure because you're running more hammer string. It's knocking the valve open for longer. And what that does is you get excess air out the end of the barrel. I don't find that my accuracy is very consistent. So what I'm doing is I'm running the regulator pressure up to 140 to get, so that I'm not chasing the pellet with air out the end of the barrel. This is bringing my accuracy way up. The problem is that the regulator is not consistent enough. And so what I'm doing is I'm over valving. I'm turning the valve tension, the valve spring tension up too much. Because the regulator sucks, I'm band-aiding with the valve spring or valve limiter spring or whatever the hell they call the thing, the little knob in the front that limits it. I'm having to rely on that too much. Like, the valve spring thing isn't designed to be relied on that much. So I'm trying to get the valve timing better by turning that thing in too much, and it just doesn't work. It needs to be like more at like 3 or 4 lines. You can feel the way it the valve works better when it's out there than where I have it right now, which is like 2.5 lines, where it kind of just poof. It's like trying to, it hits the valve, and when the pressure is too high, it's like a weird thuddy sound, and then it snap, 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 and then when this thing can't keep up, it starts getting into some like weird muffled sound again. It's really, I can't catch it on camera for you guys, and unless you're probably a slightly more advanced tuner, you're not going to really even get what I'm saying. But I'm just chasing bad parts. So hopefully all my problems are going to pretty much go away when I get the new regulator. Today, during my screwing around, and because I was changing so many settings and I have to kind of start from square zero every time when I get a new regulator pressure, the FX 15.9s, when I got up into the higher reg pressures, started shooting really good. When I was at 155 bar, I don't think I made it to 160. When I was at 155 bar, they were shooting well from 1,070 to like 1,032. And I wasn't trying to group, but I'm shooting the 1.5 inch little spinner down there, and you know, I could tell it's not like a tight group at whatever 50, 60. Matter of fact, a lot of it was actually at 60 yards, but it was really consistent in there. It's consistent enough that I think that if I had parts that were working the way they should, I could have tuned that in there a little bit. Right now, I think I'm at 142 bar, but yeah, it's crept all the way to 147 since I turned the camera on. So it's crept just in a couple minutes. It crept up 5 bar. That 142 bar that I'm sitting on right now, I was just shooting the other direction there at 70 yards, and it was pretty much stacking them in there at 1,055 to 1,070, and somewhere around that like 1,055 to 1,062, I would just see them hitting right on top of each other, and then you'd see a little flyer or something, but then that would be 1,072, and then it would 1,044, and then it'd be consistent again, and stack them, and then it'd spin them around. So I'm just at my wit's end with this regulator. So I'm hoping when I get the Huma in there, it's gonna really help take care of some of that. And if it doesn't, I'm putting a first stage regulator back into this gun. I think that FX did that because so many people are slugging them. You don't really need that first regulator as much. When you have that high pressure, there's less variation. And then all those guys are running those slug guns too. They're running the soft valve return spring, so they're just hammering the valve. And it doesn't matter when you're shooting slugs because they don't have a skirt on them that gets destabilized when it blows a bunch of extra air out the barrel. Trying to shoot the pellets that fast, that's the problem. I'm dealing with turbulence. They're already not, you know, according to physics, not really stabilized well that way. It's a very, very fine line that I'm flirting with here, and it's a rabbit hole. So like I told you so, and I know I've never not said that. Like, but I know you can shoot them fast because I see it. I'll see like a string of 70 pellets do it perfectly, and then the regulator starts screwing up, or my bottle starts getting low, and things start changing. Because you're flirting with that line, and the parts aren't working consistently, I'm dealing with problems. That said, I'm going to bring a different sport into this. I ordered a stiffer hammer spring for this, and I didn't necessarily want to do a stiffer hammer weight because I'm not trying to hit the valve harder. I ordered the stiffer spring so that I wouldn't have to use up so much of the spring when I'm hitting the valve, because like I said earlier, I'm getting that it's a real inconsistent feel when the spring is like starts to get fully compressed. And I come from motorcycle suspension, and most people in that world don't understand how that shit works either. But there's a thing called hold up in motorcycle suspension. You don't want your suspension to be all the way down into that compressed spring, because as you're hitting bumps, and you're hitting bumps really fast, and think of that as me shooting real fast, when you get down in there, the energy isn't consistent. It causes the bike to swap and wander. And people get this wrong. They think that their suspension's too stiff and it's deflecting, but it's not. It's getting too far into the spring's stroke. And when it gets that far down, the energy doesn't have anywhere to go, and it starts to get real consistent on how the spring is working. With that idea, I wanted to put a stiffer spring in this thing so that I can put less tension on it, and I can have better hold up in the gun. I'd use a little bit more in the motorcycle suspension. You're staying in the top of the stroke more, so that when you get down into so you won't be down in the bottom of the stroke and wallering. And that's, as a guy that's ridden thousands of hours on motorcycles and shot powder guns for, I don't know, thousands of hours probably too, that's what I'm feeling. And it translates to a different sport. And I'm sure that like nobody in the air gun industry is getting this right now because they haven't had any experience with suspension. It's just springs, and springs getting worked really quickly. And so I was going to put that stiffer spring in this gun, but the tool to get it out of here, you have to take the end of the caulking rod thing off, or the valve seat, or whatever the hell it's called. And I didn't want to mar up all those parts. Ernest Rose actually made a little tool to take that apart. It's a valve seat removal tool or whatever, and it's got little set screws in it so that you can hold the rod while you undo it. Anyway, I don't have one of those, so I didn't want to jack up the parts, scratch up the parts in the gun trying to put that spring in there. But I think for what I'm trying to do with the higher reg pressures and getting the recovery in the I don't know how to explain it to you guys, and I actually probably don't know how to describe it to most airgun tuners either, because they don't have this experience in suspension that I do. It's not that they're wrong. Clearly, there's amazing bench rush shooters out there, and I'm just some fucking ding-dong out here in the woods that doesn't have any airgun experience. I'm not a dumbass. I'm not naive to that. I understand that people don't like that. But what I'm telling you is there's a lot of stuff in this airgun industry that people haven't started screwing with yet. And I think that's why I like Ernest so much, because that guy is crazy out of the box when it comes to trying stuff. And I'm a huge fan of that, because I don't settle for things if I think there's another way to do it. And Ernest is the same way. Right now he's trying regulators with springs in them. And if you go back to motorcycles are just now starting to use, maybe they did in street bikes or something, but just now in, like, we'll say dirt bike racing, which is what I know, using the Belleville springs in the clutches. Air guns are using those in the regulators. Ernest is screwing with coil springs in regulators, and I know that there's other manufacturers that do that too, but he's playing with that. Motorcycles have got away from those. That's what they were using in their clutches. And so it's just regulation and tension of a system. People don't screw around with that stuff and look for the limits on it. You never evolve. And FX is really good about that stuff, and Ernest Rowe is too. I mean, right now he's working on different trigger pads so that he can cock his gun faster. He has a lathe and stuff too, or milling machine. I don't know what the hell he's got. He's probably got everything. And so he's making different kinds of cocking handles and stuff like that. I also do that. You guys saw me just stacking foam into my grips. My trigger blade, you can see it sideways. I'm testing all these different kinds of things. I just don't have machines to do it. And so what I end up doing is buying other people's parts that maybe weren't even designed to do such a thing. And I get out a Dremel tool and a Swiss Army knife, and I start grinding and cutting and sanding and stuff with all these just barbaric tools that I have, because for the last 14 years I've been a triathlete and I really don't have any tools until I started to get into motorcycles again. And then I just used the toolkit that came with my KTM, because they're so simple and so standardized in their bolts. You can work on almost everything on the whole entire damn bike with the little tool pack that it comes with. There's a lot in this industry that nobody's touching on. And I don't claim to be the end-all be-all guy or know how to do any of this stuff. But I'm an idea guy, and if I had somebody like Ernest or if I knew how to use a 3D printer myself, and I could relay ideas and bounce ideas off people with better skill sets in machining and physics than me, could make some really, really cool shit. And it could push the limits of things that I don't think people know that they can. I mean, that's probably sounds like a horn toot or something to a bunch of people. I don't really care. Like I always say, I know what I'm looking for. I know what I want to feel, and I don't feel that this stuff is up to snuff and is really evolved. And we've seen, I mean, I wasn't really in the industry, but I watch old videos and stuff. We've seen the amazing amount of progress they've made on these guns since like 2016. Like Matt, developing slugs, Matt Dubber developing slugs, and, the NSA, just Nick Nielsen, like trying to evolve projectiles and things. And when before it was just like Diablo pellets. Those kind of minds, and I have a lot of respect for Matt Dubber. He'd probably think what I'm doing is completely stupid. He'd probably tell it right to my face too. And that's okay. We need a checks and balances system for everything. And right now we need it in politics, right? Checks and balances, right? I have all the respect in the world for Matt. He clearly knows a lot about physics and ballistics, and he's developing the slugs when other people weren't doing that. So I'm all about that. But I have things that I want to do too, and people call him crazy, and they'll call me crazy, and you need crazy people out there to push the limits and see what we can do. And like I said, I've seen it higher pressures now. I can get these things to go 1,050 in a straight line. If I lower the thing 30 bar, we're getting more air escape from behind, and I don't have 15 different moderators to try and air strippers and all these things like Matt has to try all these things. Because I would be putting muzzle brakes. I've thought about drilling holes in barrels, in paintball and stuff. They used to make the ball spiral. I don't know if they do anymore, because I was into it like 25 plus years ago. They would drill holes in the barrels to make the air escape and spin the ball. And so, like, I don't understand why on an air gun, why we would have more of a muzzle brake at the end. I mean, people are doing it. Matt has them. Him and Hans Froman or whatever. They're making this stuff. I think that Fox is making suppressors that do this stuff, where you're off gassing behind the projectile, and then you're silencing it also. But it's more about hitting it with huge power back here. And obviously I'm on a 700 barrel, so maybe I'm trying to push too much speed from this 700 barrel, and I really got to get an 800. And that's probably true, but I want to push as much as I can out of this 700. I'm just learning, and I think I'm learning at a far more rapid rate than most people are in this industry. And I very much have an engineering mind. I've never been in engineering, is funny enough. I've always been in sales, but I've always been a very, very good salesman because of that problem solving mindset. All sales is problem solving. You solve somebody's problems, they'll throw money at you, right? So it's the same type of stuff. I just didn't like school and didn't want to go to school for something like engineering, and I just ended up in sales jobs because I was good at it. So full circle, chasing bad parts, want to try other parts, don't have the tools. And I did order a Donnie FL Koi in a 7-inch because I'm pushing these pellets really fast, right? And if I can get that little bit more of a air stripping effect from that 7-inch moderator versus the 5 that I have now, maybe I can get some of that turbulence off of the pellet. And the other thing is when I'm shooting at my house, like shooting them fast like this, and especially with that extra gas escaping the barrel, it's quite a bit louder. So hopefully I can go back to shooting at my house just a little bit more. And actually the main reason why I did it is because when I come up here, I've been using 700 bottles. And I told you in the last video, my 700 has been, I'm pretty sure it's bumping my moderator. So instead of being 33 millimeters, the Koi is 31 millimeters, I believe. And that extra 2 millimeters is going to give me the clearance for my barrel whip. I already have the tensioner on this and a carbon fiber sleeve in there, so that little bit of barrel whip or the interference that I see when my 700 bottle is on there is you know, what's happening. I know this isn't a shooting video, but I'm gonna upload it anyway. It's kind of a range vlog, and I just want you to see what's going through my mind, and the 50 people that want to watch it probably will, and then I'll upload a shoot video. It'll get 1,200 views or something like that. But anyway, that's what's on my mind, and that's what I'm doing, and that's what I'm testing. And once again, I have great days and I have very, very bad days out here. But right now, with this hammer spring, 140 bar is my sweet spot, and I was hoping that I'd be able to install that spring so I could run up into the 150 bar and get more back pressure on that valve, and then have that stiffer spring that I could hit the valve just a little bit faster with, and not be so deep in the stroke, and get a more sharp, precise, timed valve. And then I can use the valve adjuster to bring it back. So that's where I'm at. But it all comes down to this regulator that I'm just flat out fed up with. So I'm very excited to get that out of there, and who knows, maybe I'll see if this regulator can fit in the front, because that's about all it's good for, is just being a stupid regulator. It just needs to dumb it down a little bit for a better one in the back. So maybe I just need to, well, I don't know what I need to do, but I got a new one coming, and we're going to try that, and we're going to see. Maybe it's just not possible. Maybe I'm just blowing smoke up my own butt and pissing up river and trying to paddle up river at the same time. But for the most part, this 1 in 16 barrel shoots the 15.9s really well at about 1,020 feet per second. And today, with all my screwing around, I found that it was actually a little bit better closer to there than it was below there, and it was a little bit better above that, like from 1,020 to like whatever 1,070 than it was when it would drop down to closer to 1,000. So I don't know if that's at all distances or not, because there's just too many variables that I have to test every day. So when I first turned around to the 70 yards, I cranked the hammer spring just a little bit more, and I saw them starting to spiral, and they were hitting off by like 2-3 inches. I went 2 clicks back, just took that little tiny bit, and this is where I was talking about the motorcycle suspension where it wallers. I took the 2 clicks out of that hammer spring, shot again, and the pellet was flying straight. And then, so that's when you just start playing with the other adjustments, the valve and the regulator pressure, to get back to that happy place. Just the speed, it isn't everything. And I know that that's a lot of how, not the advanced airgun tuners in the airgun industry tune, but there's good speeds that the pellets fly at. But if they have turbulence behind them, they won't fly well at that speed. And if they have too much like hammer spring boing and compression on them, they won't fly well at speed. So you really have to find that sweet spot. And I think it's a lot more variable than most people think. It's like, oh, just shoot this pellet at 950 and it'll be amazing. No, 950 at 70 bar and maybe it shoots like crap. And then we shoot it at 950 at 150 bar and maybe it shoots like crap. And maybe we shoot at 950 at 110 bar, which is kind of where I was shooting them. And it's great. So it's finding that spot in the middle. It's a really long winded video with no shooting. If you liked it, click the like button. I'm contemplating whether I even want to be on YouTube anymore. And it's not about the fans, because I have fun interacting with the fans. It's about YouTube itself. I cannot stand Google, the company. And if you don't understand that, you just don't know. As if you like Google as a company, yeah, it's not a good company. I've been dealing with them for 24 years. And I have a lot of stories about how nasty, corrupt, crappy of a company Google is. It's probably real nice to work there as long as you got blue hair or something, but if you are anybody that loves anything besides total control of humanity, then you won't be on board with Google. So I'm thinking about moving my channel over to Rumble and getting 4 views over at Rumble just out of principle. I don't make any money from YouTube. It doesn't really matter to me. I would much rather have it on a platform that actually gives a crap about humanity and not just making gross, disgusting profits while not being a good company. I'll leave a lot of the words out here so the algorithm and AI and all that crap. Yeah, anyway, I can't even comment on my own channel half the time. They censor my comments because, these are air gun related videos. It's mind-blowing. But if I was trying to cut off my private parts and goofy stuff, that's a whole nother rant. Take care, you guys.